Tom here, ready to tell you an amazing story about Hun Manet. This is not just any story, it's about a real person who changed from a young boy into one of the most powerful men in Cambodia. Let me take you on this journey together. Chapter 1, A Special Birth During Dark Times. Our story begins on October 20, 1977, in a small place called Memot District in Kampong Cham Province, Cambodia. This was not a normal time in Cambodia. It was during the Khmer Rouge regime, one of the darkest periods in the country's history. Millions of people were suffering, families were broken apart, and children were crying for food. But according to his father's stories, something magical happened when Hun Manet was born. Hun Sen, his father, tells people that a bright light came from an old banyan tree when his son was born. 500 people saw the light, his father says. True or not, this story shows how special his family believed Manet was from the very beginning. Think about it. Being born during such terrible times, yet surviving and growing strong, baby Manet had no idea that one day he would become the leader of his entire country. His birth marked the beginning of a new generation in Cambodia, a generation that would see peace after so much war. The Khmer Rouge period was ending, and slowly families like the Huns were building new lives. Little Manet was growing up in a world that was changing very fast. His father, Hun Sen, was also starting his own journey to power during these years. Chapter 2, Growing Up as a Politician's Son. As Manet grew older, his childhood was very different from other Cambodian children. His father, Hun Sen, became more and more important in the government. By 1985, when Manet was just 8 years old, his father became the Prime Minister of Cambodia. Imagine being 8 years old and your dad suddenly becomes the most powerful person in your country. Manet went to school in Phnom Penh, the capital city. He saw his father on television, in newspapers, and meeting with important people from around the world. But he was still just a regular boy who needed to study, play with friends, and learn about life. Growing up in Phnom Penh was exciting, but also challenging. The city was rebuilding after years of war. Manet could see construction everywhere, new buildings, new roads, new hope. His father was working to bring peace and development to Cambodia, and young Manet was watching and learning. At school, other children knew who his father was. Some children were friendly because they wanted to be close to power. Others were afraid or jealous. Manet learned early that being the son of a leader meant people would always look at him differently. This experience taught him important lessons about friendship, trust, and responsibility. His parents wanted him to have a good education and see the world beyond Cambodia. They knew that if Manet was going to help his country in the future, he needed to understand how other countries worked and what made them successful. Chapter 3, The American Dream, West Point Military Academy. In 1995, when Manet was 18 years old, something incredible happened. He joined the armed forces and also entered the United States Military Academy at West Point. This was a huge step. West Point is one of the most famous military schools in the world. Only the smartest and strongest young people can get in. For a young man from Cambodia to go to West Point was almost impossible to imagine. Think about it, he had to learn perfect English, understand American culture, and compete with the best students from America and around the world. The training was extremely hard. Every day he woke up at 5 a.m., did physical exercise, studied mathematics and science, learned about military history, and practiced leadership skills. Menet was thousands of miles away from his family and his country. The food was different, the weather was different, and the people spoke a different language. But he never gave up. He studied late at night, asked questions when he didn't understand, and slowly became one of the top students in his class. His fellow students were curious about Cambodia. Many of them had never met someone from Southeast Asia. Manet became like an ambassador for his country. He told them about Cambodian history, culture, and food. He explained how his father was working to build a better Cambodia after years of war and suffering. In 1999, he became the first Cambodian graduate of the academy. This was a historic moment. When he graduated, he was not just graduating for himself, he was showing the world that young people from Cambodia could succeed anywhere. His father was so proud, and all of Cambodia celebrated this achievement. Chapter 4: Building a Military Career. After graduating from West Point, Manet returned to Cambodia with new knowledge and big dreams. He joined the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces and started working his way up the military system. This was not easy because other military officers wondered if he got opportunities only because his father was the prime minister. Manet knew he had to prove himself through hard work and good leadership. He started with small responsibilities and slowly showed that he deserved bigger jobs. He was respectful to older officers, kind to younger soldiers, and always tried to improve the military system. Manet knew he had to improve the system. He served as the deputy commander in chief of the RCAF and the commander of the Royal Cambodian Army, RCA, while also leading the National Counterterrorism Special Forces. These are very important positions. He was responsible for thousands of soldiers and for keeping Cambodia safe from threats. During this time, he also continued his education. He studied economics, international relations, and public policy. He wanted to understand not just military strategy, but also how to help Cambodia's economy grow and how to build good relationships with other countries. His military career was successful, but people were already talking about his political future. Everyone knew that his father was getting older and that someone would need to take over the leadership of Cambodia. The question was, would that person be Hun Manet? Manet was careful not to talk too much about politics during his military years. He focused on his job and tried to stay out of political discussions. But inside, he was preparing himself for the possibility that one day he might serve his country in a different way. Chapter 5: The Path to Political Power. As the years passed, Hun Sen, Manet's father, had been prime minister for more than 35 years. He was getting older, and people started asking questions about the future of Cambodia's leadership. Who would take over when Hun Sen retired? Would there be elections? Would power be transferred to someone in the same political party? Manet was now in his 40s, married, and had his own family. He had proven himself as a capable military leader and had earned respect from many people in Cambodia. His father began talking publicly about preparing Manet for greater responsibilities. As his father Hun Sen declared, I have to support my son and train him so that he is capable. This statement created a lot of discussion in Cambodia and around the world. Some people thought it was natural for a father to help his son. Others worried about democracy and wondered if power should be passed from father to son, like in a monarchy. Manet handled this pressure carefully. He continued his military work, but also started taking on more political responsibilities. He attended government meetings, met with foreign diplomats, and began speaking publicly about Cambodia's future. He talked about economic development, education, infrastructure, and fighting corruption. International observers were watching carefully. They wanted to see if Manet would be different from his father or if he would continue the same policies. They were also curious about his education in America and whether that experience would influence how he led Cambodia. The political transition was becoming more real every day. Everyone could see that big changes were coming to Cambodia. Chapter 6: The Historic Transition of 2023. After nearly 4 decades as Cambodia's strongman leader, Prime Minister Hun Sen announced on Wednesday that he will step down in a matter of weeks to make way for his successor and son, Hun Manet. This announcement in July 2023 shocked many people, even though they had been expecting it for years. The transition happened very quickly. Hun Manet, 45, a four-star general in Cambodia's military, was elected by all 123 members of Cambodia's lower house of parliament who were present for the vote on Tuesday. The parliament session was historic because it marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. Today is a very important historical day for the Kingdom of Cambodia, said the new prime minister. At 45 years old, he became one of the youngest leaders in Southeast Asia. This was a moment that people had been talking about for many years, but now it was actually happening. The world was watching Cambodia that day. News reporters from many countries came to Phnom Penh to report on this historic change. Some people compared it to other countries where leadership passes from father to son. The transition of power was likened by some to a Southeast Asian version of North Korea's dynastic leadership. But Manet tried to show that he was his own person with his own ideas. In his first speeches as prime minister, he talked about continuing to develop Cambodia's economy, improving education, building better roads and hospitals, and maintaining peace with neighboring countries. The ceremony was formal and traditional, following Cambodian customs that have existed for hundreds of years. But everyone knew that this was also the beginning of a new chapter in Cambodia's modern history. Chapter 7: The new prime minister faces challenges. Being prime minister is one of the most difficult jobs in the world, and Hun Manet quickly discovered this truth. He succeeded his father, Hun Sen, who ruled for almost 4 decades, from 1985 to 2023. Following such a long and powerful leadership created enormous pressure and expectations. Cambodia faces many challenges that any new leader must address. The country needs better roads, schools, and hospitals. Many young people are looking for good jobs and opportunities. Climate change is affecting farmers and fishermen. The relationship with neighboring countries requires careful attention. Manon also has to deal with international relationships. Countries like the United States, China, Vietnam, and Thailand all have important connections with Cambodia. Each relationship requires different approaches and careful diplomacy. His education at West Point helps him understand American perspectives, but he also needs to maintain good relationships with Asian countries. Hun Manet, 46, is the figurehead of the family's generational transition. This means he represents not just himself, but also a new generation of Cambodian leaders. Young people in Cambodia are watching to see if he will create more opportunities for them and listen to their ideas about the country's future. Some critics worry about democracy and political freedom in Cambodia. They want to see more open elections and more space for different political opinions. Manet has to balance these concerns with maintaining stability and continuing economic development. Every day brings new decisions and new challenges. From morning until night, the prime minister must think about millions of people and how government decisions will affect their lives. Chapter 8, Looking to the Future. Today, Han Manet continues serving as Cambodia's prime minister, working to build a better future for his country. His story shows us that life can take unexpected turns. A boy born during one of Cambodia's darkest periods grew up to become the leader of his nation. What makes his story interesting is not just the power and politics, but the human journey. From a child watching his father work, to a student struggling with English at West Point, to a military officer proving himself, to a prime minister facing enormous responsibilities, each step taught him something new. The Hun clan is preparing to develop a dominance in Cambodia that Southeast Asia has not experienced since the time of Suharto in Indonesia. This shows that Manet's leadership is part of a larger family influence that may continue for many years. His American education gives him a different perspective from previous Cambodian leaders. He understands both Eastern and Western ways of thinking about government, economics, and international relations. This knowledge might help Cambodia build stronger relationships with countries around the world. The big question for the future is, what kind of leader will Hun Manet become? Will he use his power to help all Cambodian people improve their lives? Will he create more opportunities for young people? Will he protect the environment and build a sustainable economy? Only time will answer these questions. But his story reminds us that every leader was once a young person with dreams and challenges. The choices he makes as prime minister will affect millions of people and shape Cambodia's future for generations to come. What do you think about his journey from a student to a prime minister? Do you believe that growing up as the son of a powerful leader prepared him well for this responsibility? Or do you think it created unfair advantages? These are important questions that people in Cambodia and around the world continue to discuss today.
Well, what an incredible journey we've taken together today. From Hun Manet's birth during the difficult Khmer Rouge period to becoming Cambodia's prime minister at just 45 years old, this story shows us how one person's life can reflect the changes of an entire country. We've seen how education, hard work, and family influence can shape a leader. We've learned about the challenges of growing up in a political family and the responsibilities that come with great power. Most importantly, we've discovered that behind every world leader is a human story full of struggles, achievements, and dreams. Han Manet's story is still being written. As Cambodia's young prime minister, he faces the challenge of leading his country into the future while respecting its past. Whether you agree with his politics or not, his journey from West Point cadet to national leader is truly remarkable. Thank you for joining us today on this fascinating exploration of one of Southeast Asia's most interesting political figures. I hope this story helped you practice your English while learning something new about Cambodia and its leadership. Thanks for sticking around till the end of the story. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a new story. Have a wonderful day, take care, and see you next time.